Good morning, students. Today we are going to discuss about the different products which are prepared from fermentation. Firstly, when we talk about the fermented food or food ingredients that rely on microbial growth as part of their processing or production are fermented foods. When we talk about the fermented food, there are different metabolic activities occur during fermentation which extend the shelf life by producing acids, change flavor and texture by producing certain compounds such as alcohol, and improve the nutritional value of the product. How they will improve the nutritional value? With the help of microorganisms can synthesize vitamins and break down indigestible material to release nutrients which are in the bound form. Fermented foods which are available over there, those include in two categories. One is fermented by yeast and one is fermented by bacteria. When we talk about the fermentation occur due to the presence of yeast, so the products are malt, that is product is beer, fruit grapes get converted into wine, rice prepare the sake, bread dough for the bread. Then food fermented by bacteria, that is cucumber, dill pickles, cabbage, sauerkraut. Cream converts into sour cream, milk converts into yogurt. Then food fermented by mold, which is including from soya beans to soya sauce, cheese to Swiss cheese. There are different pros and cons are related to fermentation. When we talk about the pros, it includes extend shelf life of the food, ease the digestion, and new or better flavors can occur. On the other hand, there are cons are also included, that is it can be unpredictable, that maybe there are some undesirable bacterial growth can occur, and due to the presence of those undesirable growth of the bacteria, it can be converted into worse flavors or taste. Then there are two kind of fermentation take place. One is controlled and one is natural fermentation. In natural fermentation, it creates condition to inhibit in undesirable fermentation yet allow desirable fermentation. For example, when your vegetables go for the fermentation, it includes vegetable plus salt. When we go for the controlled fermentation, then controlled fermentation includes add microorganism to ensure desirable fermentation like lactose get converted into lactic acid, or there are starter cultures are available or lactic acid bacteria are available which included at the lab level, and they can be included in the food stuff and they are having the tendency to prepare the lactic acid. Then in traditional fermentation, what occurs? There are we having raw material and we having some indigenous microflora. When we include that one microflora in the incubation period for specific conditions, then we get the final product, just like preparation of your curd. What are the advantages? Some flavors unique to a region or product may only be attained by this, whereas some disadvantages are also included, and these are process and products are unpredictable depending on source of raw material, season, cleanliness of facility, etc. Then in controlled fermentation, there we having the raw material. Firstly, we add starter culture, then incubate in the specific conditions, then we get the final product. Here the advantages are uniformity will be there, efficient fermentation will take place, more control on the process, and we know that what kind of product we will achieve. Whereas disadvantages are isolating the right strain to incubate is not always easy, and it is complex for the development of flavor. Sometimes the flavors get decreased also. In controlled fermentation, there are two kind of starter cultures are there. One is pure microbial culture and one is backslop method. Uh, Pure microbial culture prepared specifically for a particular food fermentation. Backslop method in this using some of the product from a previous successful fermentation to inoculate the next batch of the raw material. In pure culture, what will happen? Firstly, we will add pure microbial culture. So we having the pure culture with us. Then we add it in the raw material and give the incubation period in the specific condition and then get the final product. And in backslop method, firstly we having the raw material, we add product from a recent successful ferment. Means firstly we have done means when we are doing the fermentation at the first step, then we are going to use the method pure culture. But after the production of that one product, final product, we will take one part from it and then we will add that one part in the next one raw material and give the specific condition for incubation and will get final product using that one specific part of the final product which have prepared from pure culture. What are the benefits and pitfalls of fermentation? When we talk about the benefits of fermentation, it includes conversion of sugars and other carbohydrate juices into wines, grains to beer, or carbon dioxide to leaven bread, sugars in vegetables to preservative organic acids. Fermentation increases the shelf life of food and it adds the aroma and flavor in the food. In some cases, it also increases the vitamin content and it also improves the digestibility of the food as compared to raw material. It can reduce or increase the toxicity. That depends on the what kind of bacteria are going to for the fermentation process. If those are desirable bacteria, then of course there will be no toxicity or zero toxicity will be there. But if the undesirable bacteria are also growing over there, then it can cause toxicity also. So there is one table is given where the pitfalls are also given over there. Then the fermented product, one of the product is cheese. When we talk about cheese, cheese is a milk product in which casein is participated in the form of a curd that holds most of the fat and other suspended material by allowing water and dissolved constituents to drain away. Beside milk, selected bacteria, a milk clotting agent, and sodium chloride are used to manufacturing of cheese. The conversion of milk into cheese involves several interrelated operations, namely coagulation, acidification, water removal, salt addition, and ripening. There are 510 types of cheese based principally on their moisture content and milk species. These can be distinguished between cow, sheep, goat, and buffalo milk cheese and hard cheese, where there is 42% less than 42% water is present over there. Semi hard, it contains 43 to 55% of water. In soft cheese, there is more than 55% of water is present. Then fresh rennet is present over there, fresh acid is there, and fresh cheese is there. There are several steps which are involved in the cheese production. It includes firstly pasteurized milk. We are go for the pasteurized milk, then we inoculate in the starter culture over there, add rennet extract, then stir it, and there will be coagulation and curd will form. Then cut it into curd cuvettes, temperature raised to 40 degrees Celsius, then squeeze the water pieces, curd pieces, and mellowing and salting will be there, and ripening of cheese occur. Method of ripening of cheese depend upon the variety of cheese to be manufactured, and accordingly the condition of ripening is dependent on the different factors that includes your temperature, growth of microorganisms, treatment of fresh curd, and relative humidity, etc. To produce hard cheese, what we have to do, the growth and activity of microorganisms on the surface of cheese are discouraged. Salt is added to the curd before pressing, or the pressed cheese is salted on the surface. Relative humidity of the air in the ripening room is kept fairly low to discourage surface growth but high enough to prevent excessive evaporation of moisture. Loss of moisture is minimized by coating the surface with paraffin or a plastic film. When we go for the production of soft cheese, then it includes the growth and activity of microorganisms on the surface of cheese is increased. The cheese is salted on the outside. The relative humidity is kept high to permit surface growth of the organism. Now, the next one product is bread. When we talk about the breads, although the composition of breads are there is starch content, moisture content, protein, sugar, fat, and ash are present over there. Then, when we talk about the starch content, it is almost 71.5% to 74.5%, and there are insoluble cells are present over there, microscopic granules are there, and absorb moisture. Why is it difficult to slice fresh bread? Because it is very soft in nature. The reason is starch cells are in a swollen state when hot and thus unstable. When cool, it shrinks and becomes more rigid. When heated again, they absorb available moisture and swells. Thus, stale bread becomes softened when heated. What will happen with the bread when the moisture content will be high? Water absorption capacity will be reduced by the food product and it results the less yield. When we talk about the proteins, there are different kind of proteins are present over there, and the range of the proteins which are present over there, that ranges from 8% to 11% in bread. When we talk about the soluble protein, it provides nourishment to the yeast for its growth and reproduction during fermentation. When we talk about the cereal protein, then wheat protein is present over there, that is gliadin and glutenin formed insoluble protein, and it combinedly it get converted into gluten, which is rubbery material when water is added. Gluten is responsible for the structure of the baked products. Gliadin gives stretching or elasticity power, whereas glutenin gives strength to hold the gases. Then again the sugar content range from 2 to 2.5%. This quantity is insufficient food to the yeast for fermentation. Extra sugar is added to the dough as food to the yeast to produce carbon dioxide gas. It retains moisture, hygroscopic and crust color will be developed due to the presence of sugar. It gives taste and flavor to the product. Then ash content. It contains 0.5% of ash content and degree of purity with respect to bran fragments and darker the flour. Cutting action on gluten fiber, the bread may have low volume and poor texture because minerals are present over there. These are the components of bread. It includes flour, yeast, water, salt, sugar, fat, and liquid. It can be water or milk. When we talk about the yeast, the properties of yeast are it can be compressed and dry yeast. In both of the form, it can be used. Amount of the compressed yeast will be twice than the dry yeast. Old yeast develop then brown color and it gives the off bad odor also. Yeast should have a butter like consistency. It means it should be softer in nature and it can be stored at 45 degree Fahrenheit. What are the enzymatic actions of yeast? Invertase and maltase helps to breaking up the sugar into simpler forms, that is invert sugar. Zymase helps in converting the invert sugar into carbon dioxide and alcohol, and small amount of other acid can also develop, which includes acetic acid, lactic acid, and glycerin. Water. What is the role of water? Water binds insoluble protein forming gluten. Minerals present have a beneficial effect as it helps the action of the yeast. Minerals have tightening action on gluten, thus helping in the gas retention. What is the role of salt? It having controlling effect on the yeast activity. means it can inhibit the role of yeast, that how much fermentation is required. On the basis of that we add salt, and it will provide only the that much environment which is required for the fermentation. Fat, when we use fat, it improves the nutritional value of the bread, then it works as lubricating agent and enabling the good volume of the food. It uses in larger quantity, it acts as a dead weight, thus hampering the volume, and it helps into moisture retention. This is the bread making process, which include firstly selection of the raw ingredients. What are the quality of the raw ingredients, then what is the correct measurement of the or weight of the raw ingredient, prepare the raw materials, mixing well, stages of mixing are included, and then go for the fermentation. Knockback time is there, it is done after 2/3 of the estimated fermentation takes place. Then we again go for the kneading of the dough. There are different kind of bread making method. It includes straight dough method, salt delay method, no time dough method, sponge and dough method, and ferment and dough process. In straight dough method, what will happen? All ingredient mixed together, dough is fermented for a predetermined time, and very strong flour is not used as it take very long time to get mature. Then salt delay method includes all the ingredients are mixed together except salt and fat. Initial fermentation is fast, reducing total fermentation time. Then we add salt using the knockback stage. No time dough method is made in emergency when you are not going to keep the dough for the fermentation. In this we add yeast in the more quantity. Then sponge and dough method, in this we use strong flour. Total fermentation time is divided into two segments. 60 to 70% is used for the sponge and then broken down with water and then evenly mixed with the remaining flour, sugar, salt and fat. Ferment and dough process. There is variation of the sponge dough. Fluid batter is made using yeast, flour, yeast food and water. Then fermentation is ready in second stage and made the enriched beds. Now the next one product is your beer production. The beer gets its name from Anglo-Saxon word called beer, which means barley. There is evidence that brewing process was established in Babylon in 6000 BC. Egyptians improved upon the process and Romans started first commercial production. The term beer covers drink like lager, ale, stout, etc. Beer is defined as a fermented alcoholic beverage made from barley, wheat, rice, potato, etc., flavored with hops. There are types of beer: bottom fermenting and top fermenting beer. Bottom fermenting beer includes that is called lager. Bottom fermented yeast are used and fermented at low temperature, settle in bottom of wort after fermentation. It characterized by a crisp tasting, lighter body and less fruity aromas. Rounded smooth beer will be there. It overlasts for 150 years or so. Lager have become the predominant beers. When we talk about top fermenting beer, it is ale. In this, top fermenting yeast is used. Fermentation is take place at the temperature of 15 degrees Celsius to 19 degrees Celsius. Ferments less fully and less discriminately, and it characterized by more fruity flavor and aroma with a malty full body flavor. Then what are the products which ingredients we use in a beer formation? It is barley, the body and soul of beer; yeast, the life of beer; hops, the spice of beer; water, the integrity and purity of beer; and adjuvants, additive grains like rice and corn, fruits or spices. Barley. When we talk about barley, the natural enzymes to convert starch to sugar needed for fermentation. It having multi-sweet flavor, color. It gives foamy head. 2 row and 6 row barley malt are used in the brewing process. Then when we talk about yeast, yeast is the catalyst of change. It is one cell microorganism. It produces carbon dioxide and alcohol. Two types of yeast are used to produce beer. In LA, there is top fermenting microorganism is used or yeast is used, whereas in lager there is bottom fermenting Saccharomyces eubarum is used over there. Whereas in top fermenting there is Saccharomyces cerevisiae is used. When we talk about hops, which is spice of beer, it is used to microbial stabilization. Hops have antiseptic qualities. It gives aroma, like fruity flavor is there. Balance the malt sweetness. Enhance head properties. There are two primary hop styles. One is aroma hops and one is bitter hops. Then water. Water plays important role in beer. Water makes up 92% of beer. Through filtration or boiling, impurities, aromas, and flavor differences can be mitigated. Water styles can affect flavor. Means there is hard water, then it helps add crisp cleanness. When there is soft water, then it adds smoothness. Then adjuvants. Adjuvants add to beer are added to change the flavor, character, or profile of beer. Used to supplement main starch source to provide better form retention and color or aroma of the beer. It falls in two categories. Uh, Grains. Grains include corn, rice, wheat, oat, or rye. Specialty ingredients, that is sweets, honey or maple, fruits, spices. Then there is beer making processes given and different kind of equipment which are used. What is the beer plant include, that is given in the picture. It is described the flow chart in which the beer production is given, that it what place. Firstly there is milling, then the second step is mashing is there, then filtration takes place, what boiling is there, fermentation takes place, clarification, bottling is there, and what production is there. So the whole process is given in these slides. Thank you.